All right, and we are live. Welcome everybody to a live episode of Mike's Money Picks. I do want to start off by kind of apologizing a little bit to the viewing audience. Today had been a busy day for me, had a lot going on. Didn't have a chance to kind of pre-post the link. Didn't have a chance to kind of, make an announcement like, hey, like this is when we're going live. Here's the link. And so, we're just kind of winging it and going live kind of at the drop of a hat here. But I am joined by my weekly guest, Zach Green, aka Big Country DFS. Zach, what's your kind of general thoughts here about Week 7?
Thanks for having me again. A great week to talk football. This is the more I look at it, it might actually be one of my favorite slates of the year so far. Even though we don't have that one game that just stands out as the obvious stacking. I still think there's a lot of value and other things to look forward to.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think there's a lot of quality on this slate, a lot of quality games, a lot of quality quarterbacks, a lot of quality options at every corner. The other thing that I do think about this slate, this is a slate where the later you can wait to build your lineups, the more information you have, you're probably going to be a little bit better off. This is just one of those slates where we're waiting on a lot of injury news. We're waiting on a lot of determinations that could, make or break the opinions on a player, and definitely open up some more options as we get into building these lineups. So I see we got a few people joining us live already. Like I said, it's entirely my fault that we didn't have a pre-posted link. So, kind of letting the people trickle on in here. But if you are with us, let us know in the chat. If there's anybody, any player, any strategy, anything you want us to talk about, let us know, because that's what we're here for. We're here for you guys, not us just to talk. Like, we're here to help the people give out some good information, right? So before we dive into Week 7, Zach, let's kind of like wrap up Week 6. How did Week 6 go for you?
Well, it was looking great with Rocco Becht, going off for low owned on Draft. So tale of two stories: DraftKings and FanDuel.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was hoping you were gonna talk about FanDuel.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that. So I had too much Edwards. We thought with 16 carries, he was back, healthy, everything. He like retweaked something and then the stupid report comes out. I saw like on Tuesday where the coach said, oh yeah, he was limited the whole game. Like we knew going in. So tell people like you idiot. And now he's 8,000. So he's just out I'm not even touching.
Well, he got declared out this week, by the way.
Oh, he did get declared out. Okay. Yeah. So he kind of screwed everything as far as I had just everything that had on DraftKings had Rocco and Sorsby, and everything that had the nuts had him or somebody else that was just a turd.
Mm-hmm.
Like Cyrus Allen was in my stack that was going off.
I got that one wrong too.
But then on FanDuel, I had Rocco Becht, and then Malachi Tony is who brought it home for me with the $5,000 takedown with his two long touchdowns too against Florida State.
And if I'm not mistaken, didn't he have a third one called back?
He had he had a 70-something yarder that got called back for a penalty too. So he's very talented, and I was surprised like nobody was on him. It seems like on FanDuel, people just only go on and play the people that they play on DraftKings because that's where all the content is for. Yeah, and they don't even look at the night games.
Yeah, and I do think with FanDuel, the half PPR, like if you know how to use that, it can really be an advantage because it's a different strategy from DraftKings. You really want to target guys who can create big plays instead of guys who are just going to get volume. And Malachi Tony's a perfect example, right? Like 2 deep touchdowns, and he was super cheap on FanDuel. He was a core play for me on FanDuel. I didn't quite have the success you did, but I definitely did have some success on both sites last week. On DraftKings, what's weird is I was all, high price running back, high price running back, high price running back last week. And the high price running backs that I played weren't great, but they also weren't terrible. And what it allowed was it kind of landed me on the right build, because what you saw was a lot of low price, low owned quarterbacks like Brendan Sorsby, like Rocco Becht that went off. And then you had low cost wide receivers like a Hank Beatty and a Michael Jackson that went off. And so it kind of just landed me in the right spot unintentionally. Even though my big dog running backs did not pay it off, it was still a profitable main slate for me because I had the right ideas and I ended up on the right players kind of by accident. And that's kind of one of the brilliances of DFS is that sometimes, you don't make the big payday because you don't get everything right, but you're able to get some things right and still make money. And that was kind of the slate for me. Now, I do see we got some guys popping in the chat. I see we got our guy Huncho, proud member of the Fantasy Corner Discord. Huncho, glad to have you in here as you are on a weekly basis. And then our guy Jay Steele. I'm happy to have you in here as well. I'm not going to hold it against him that he's a Buckeyes fan and they beat my Longhorns because it looks like everybody's going to beat my Longhorns, so I can't really hold it against them. So yeah, glad to have you guys in the chat. If there's anything you guys want to talk about, want us to mention, let us know. But we're going to go ahead and dive into this main slate. Now, I do need to set up my screen share, but we are going to be sharing the sheet that was made by our guy, Zach. Here, Zach, tell the people where they can find this wonderful sheet.
Yeah, they can find it at either Big Country DFS Discord or Fantasy Corner Discord. And Twitter also, I've been posting on there at Big Country DFS. And we do one for every midweek slate for Saturday main slate, Saturday night slate, Saturday late night. And I definitely don't want to take all the credit. It's not something that I could do by myself. My dad helps a lot. And then Huncho, he helps a lot. You help a lot too sometimes. Just a lot of different people because just, it's time consuming literally just to list the names, even though the salaries and everything are automated. It takes a while. And then you have to really think, which category is the best category to put them in, cash, GPP, risky, or mega. So I just appreciate everybody that helps out with those.
Yeah, like and I believe it's your dad that helps you out a lot with this also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all are like Excel wizards. Like I'm so impressed with how you make these. Like my contributions are more like, hey, who we putting in the core? who we putting with the cash safe category? Because Lord knows I couldn't do all this on Excel, and I had a whole class on Microsoft Excel, and I don't know how to do all this. So yeah, you guys do great work with this. I see we got our guy Darren in the chat. Yeah. If you guys watch my Thursday show, I mentioned how the YouTube algorithm wants to keep feeding me Sam Houston content because I, in week 0, kept trying to find out who was going to be the starters when they didn't release a depth chart. And yeah, I'm all done with Sam Houston content. And they're only down 3 right now, though. Maybe Hunter Watson was a core play for me tonight, so I really need Hunter Watson to come through with a big second half. And then I will add also the Southern Miss guys are looking real good. Have you checked the score of that game, Zach?
Yeah, they're up 28-7. I need French, so that's a good game script for me.
Yeah, French just needs to stop throwing it to Southern Miss, and he'll be all right.
Yeah.
But you're looking at Southern Miss. You got 2 touchdowns for Braxton, 2 touchdowns for Pittman. Like
I got Pittman. Yeah.
I was big on both of them tonight. I didn't really stack Braxton a whole lot just because it's really hard to pin down one of those wide receivers. So if they just keep piling up the points, Braxton and Pittman, it's going to be a good night. So we'll see. All right. So now let's go ahead and talk about this main slate. So as we do at the start, let's talk about the game environment. So I floated this idea by you earlier, Zach, but I wanted you to tell me if I'm a crazy person. Would I be a crazy person if I were to just say like, hey, for a block of my lineups this week, I'm going to treat this as a Big 12 only slate, just a Big 12 only. I'm talking playing the Cincinnati game, the Houston and Oklahoma State game, the Iowa State and Colorado game, and then the Kansas State game. I believe they're playing TCU, right? Or no? Yeah. If I were to just play those 4 games, would I be a crazy person?
No, we both talked about that earlier. Basically, the Big 12, what we've seen so far is just kind of like other years, doesn't really believe in playing defense. Mm-hmm. And Cincinnati, and Iowa State, we called that game last week being a shootout and going over the total, and it was. Houston and Oklahoma State. The only reason, don't get afraid by the 48 total. The only reason that's so low is because they don't believe in the Oklahoma State offense.
Right.
And they might be having to start a receiver at quarterback. So,
but he's only 3,000.
But Houston is bad too. So I still think that there's going to be point. And I mean, you look at Arizona, they put up a ton. Fafita had 5 TDs. TCU and Kansas State, neither one of those teams have believed in defense all year.
No.
And then Iowa State, they looked bad on getting run over by Cincinnati. And so
they're just so injured.
Yeah, there's so many guys out.
Yeah, so I really think I might try that this week. Like, I've mentioned here on the past how I generally play either a 20 max or 2. Like I'm not a big dollar player. I'm never going to pretend to be a big dollar player. But what I think I might do this week is play a 20 max where I go in the optimizer and I literally just click off all the games except the Big 12 games, and I just see what it pops out. And I think I might actually like it because I think that there's actually going to be some chalk in the other games as well. And this is a week where I actually don't think I'm going to be a big fan of the chalk, but more on that a little later. One thing I will add with this, and it's kind of like a throwback. Zach, did you ever play college football DFS when FanDuel and DraftKings first started?
No, I don't. I think I've only been playing for the last 10 or so years.
Okay, so
I don't think I was on that then.
The very first years where FanDuel started in 2014 and DraftKings started in 2015, right? Now, at the time, I was working in film at Charlotte. So, I had, this vast database of college football knowledge. And there wasn't, a regulation about, hey, a guy that works in a college football program probably shouldn't be playing this. Now, granted, I never, gambled on my own team or anything. It was always, it's not like Charlotte was ever on the main slate, right? But FanDuel, they used to do it in a way that was really cool. You used to have to pick a tight end and a defense, and there was no super flex. So it really brought in strategy of do you want to pay up for tight end? Do you just punt? Do you want to pay up for a defense? Do you just punt? And I kind of missed that. But one of my most successful days ever in college football DFS, and this was kind of what hooked me on college football DFS, was I turned a $1 entry because, I was a broke college kid. I turned $1 entry into 150 on FanDuel. And it was stacking Patrick Mahomes. I played Patrick Mahomes, a Texas Tech wide receiver, an Oklahoma State wide receiver, and another Big 12 guy or another guy from that game. And that was my biggest payday. And so, just kind of brings me back to that of hey, just play the Big 12 guys. They don't play defense in this conference. And then we got Darren in the chat saying Mike was the Connor Stallions of Charlotte. No, I can assure you I was not stealing signs. I was not doing anything illegal. I was in video. I videoed practice. I broke down film, and there was not any notice that was hey, you probably shouldn't be playing DraftKings because, sports gambling was not what it is now. And now I'm sure there's regulation against it. So that took us to the game environments, right? So now let's go ahead and we're going to go position by position here. Let's go ahead and talk about the quarterbacks. So let's start at the top, right? In terms of salary, there's a few guys near the top this week. We got Castellanos, we got Avery Johnson, we got Haynes King, all above 9K. Zach, do you think that you're going to play any of these 9K quarterbacks this week?
I think I'll get a little bit of Castellanos and a little bit of King, but I'm not really sold on Johnson.
So you're actually the opposite of me. So go ahead and elaborate a little bit there. I'm curious.
Well, it's just because with so much other value at running back and receiver, it's easy to pay up. And I think a lot of people aren't going to do it because they're not thinking about the fact that it's easy to do. They're strictly just looking at price and saying, well, 9,600 is kind of priced to a ceiling.
Yep.
Well, but you can also fit him in because you have almost min-price receivers that are in great spots. So I probably won't have a ton, but I'll have some. And then with King, I always want to get some because it's his low score is 25, even when he has a dud game.
Super high floor.
But he has a high upside if he has one of those 4 rushing TDs. So it'll kind of be one of those things. I'm going to change him and Jamal Haynes, use one, not use them together, use one or the other because it's usually one does good and the other doesn't. And then Avery Johnson, I wasn't going to play him, but I might just because I think they're going to have to pass, especially with Edwards out now. Joe Jackson hasn't really looked good any of the times that Edwards was out. And so I think they'll be passing more on TCU.
Yeah, I think I'm going to play quite a bit of Johnson because I think this is a great game stacking opportunity. I think you look at that TCU offense and what they've been doing lately. Kansas State coming off of a game against Baylor where Avery Johnson kind of carried the offense without Dylan Edwards. I really think that's a solid spot. And then, kind of like Huncho saying in the chat, we got Jerron Tibbs as a stacking partner. We got Jace Brown as a stacking partner. What I really like about these high-priced quarterbacks is that they do have obvious stacking partners. And so Johnson, to me, is the one that stands out. I have not ruled out Castellanos. I have not ruled out Haynes King. I do think a Castellanos and Duke Robinson stack is in play for me. With Haynes King, it would probably just be unstacked. But I don't know. Like you said with King, like he's one of those guys that's a really tough fade because there's so many times in his career that he's just been the guy that you had to have, right? So it's just really tough for me. Now, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the one thing I will say about Tibbs, and I already told Huncho about this, is Jerand Bradley is going to be back, and so that could affect a little bit. And they also like to throw to Oakley, the tight end. So to me, Kansas State is a little more spread out than you might initially think just by looking at some of the games whenever Bradley was out.
Yeah, when Bradley was out, it seemed like, or when Bradley was in, excuse me, it seemed like he was not necessarily the wide receiver too, but it definitely ate into Tibbs. Like if now this is like my memory. I don't know if my memory's going bad or not, but I feel like Brown was still the wide receiver 1. Tibbs was still the wide receiver 2, but it was not the same target share that he's been having now.
Yeah, let me.
You can pull it up.
Yeah, if I can remember the last game that he played.
I know he definitely played Iowa State. I don't know much after that. Maybe North Dakota. I think that's who they played in week 2 because they barely won. All right, I'll filibuster while you're looking it up. So I do think that this is actually not a bad week for mid-range quarterbacks either. The 8K range has a few guys that like normally are not my style, but I'm going to be playing this week. And that's Julian Sayin and it's Josh Hoover. I normally don't like playing high-priced pocket passers. I just think generally that's a bad proposition. But when I do, it's kind of like the Dos Equis, like the old most interesting man in the world ads. Like, I don't often play pocket passers, but when I do, they have a stacking partner, they have 300-yard upside, and they have a plus matchup. And Hoover and Sayin both check both those boxes. Hoover going up against Kansas State, you can play him with McAllister and Manjack. Sayin going up against Illinois, which is one of the worst secondaries in the country right now. They're giving up 300 passing yards a game pretty much every time. And you obviously can stack him with Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate. I like both of those guys for that reason, that they're just kind of the formula for what I want in a pocket passer.
Yeah. So I got something to say about that too, but
okay. You found the Tibbs info.
Yeah. So they played looks like 2 or 3 games, and it was literally Brown with 24 targets, Tibbs 12, Bradley 11, Oakley 9. So it's almost dead even. Mm-hmm. And then Tibbs only had 11 more snaps on the field than Bradley, but they both ran around 100% of the time. So they're just something on that. But yeah, Sayin and Hoover, I love both of them too. Sayin almost made it into my core quarterback as well. He's actually number 1 right now in accuracy in the country with like 80% of his passes. So the only issue is if they blow out, but I don't think they're going to blow out because Illinois can still move the ball themselves too.
And we kind of saw when Indiana blew Illinois out, Mendoza had a huge game, but it was because Mendoza got the touchdowns. And so even if it does turn into a blowout, if Sayin is able to capture the touchdowns, he still might end up having a pretty good day when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel the same way about Hoover.
The only thing with Hoover is, for whatever reason, I don't there's not really a good explanation. I just don't like playing him.
Yeah.
Because just like last week, every time I play him, he is just kind of like he's just like, he ended up getting 275, 4 touchdowns, and he had a rushing touchdown. But yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember who I was telling this. I don't think it was you, but it was somebody else that I just find it ugly to look at a quarterback's game log and see negative rushing yards in it more often than not. Like,
Yeah.
it just
Well,
really gives me like this uneasiness. Like, oh, they're losing points on that.
and that's what people don't realize. If you get sacked enough and you lose like 60 yards rushing, that's literally like a 50-yard touchdown worth
Hmm.
of points that
There
you're
was
losing.
somebody that did that last year where they had a good day, but like they literally had like negative 60 yards rushing, and it ruined a good fantasy day. I don't remember who it was. I wish I had a name, but I distinctly remember this guy being like nearly at the top of the quarterback list, but he lost like 6 points of rushing yards.
Yeah, and so the reason I'm probably not going to be a lot on Hoover is because I love Weigman just $100 less than him, because Oklahoma State, they've been getting shredded by quarterbacks, and they haven't even faced one that can run like him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the upper body injury that they said was just concussion, and he's already gone through all the tests and everything. So it's not like a ankle, or hand or something like that. And so usually if it's concussion or some kind of head thing and they cleared all the tests, then I'm totally fine with it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Me and you are going to differ on this one. And I don't know who's going to end up being right, because I just don't buy that he's going to have the same rushing workload in this game. Like last week when he got out, they saw how bad Zion Chris was, right? And so I think their priority in this game is going to be A, winning the game, but B, keeping Wegman healthy. And if they don't keep him healthy, they're not going to be good for the rest of the season. So I just have doubts about how much are they actually going to run him? How deep is he going to play into this game? Now, granted, the counter argument will be like, hey, what if he scores 4 touchdowns in the first half, right? But I don't know. I just can't get there. I totally see why someone would, but it's not for me this week.
Yeah, with it being a home game at Oklahoma State, I think they're going to have to run him more. But that's just mine. Usually I do pretty good predicting these Oklahoma State games, so we'll see.
You do. Now, I will say your quarterback calls the last few weeks have been absolutely on fire too. So like as we're going through this section, like if you literally just listen to us finish talking about quarterbacks and then turn it off, you'd probably be up a lot of money over the course of the season. Now, that does it for the high price quarterbacks. In the mid range, I'm going back to Sorsby and Becht. They've done well for me the last 2 weeks. Rocco Becht, great matchup against a Colorado secondary that just gave up 4 touchdowns to Josh Hoover. And then Brendan Sorsby going up against UCF. Sorsby's a dual threat. He has upside anytime he suits it up. Do you have any issues with those two, Zach?
So I'm not as high on either one of those as you are.
Mm-hmm.
Sorsby, he's probably the least interest to me because a lot of his scoring was against Bowling Green and Northwestern State, and
Mm-hmm.
and he racked up a lot of touchdowns. And as we saw last week, he still played well. Cincinnati played well, but he didn't really do it. It wasn't the sexy score like he had been putting up. And now his price is getting up, continues to climb, and the ownership does because he's not as sneaky anymore. And Evan Pryor and Tawee Walker have been looking great.
They've been very good.
And UCF's run defense is atrocious. And so just like it could be similar to the Iowa State game, the running backs are just running all over the place. They don't need Sorsby.
I could see that.
Rocco Becht, on the other hand, I'm always a fan of him. And like you mentioned, Colorado does well, not doing well. They gave up 4 touchdowns to TCU and Hoover. And so the only deal with Becht is I just prefer a little bit cheaper guys like Salter and Chiles. And so that's the only thing there.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and start that now. So among the cheap quarterbacks, I think I know how ownership is going to play out, and I think I know how I want to play my lineups out. I think Nico is going to be chalk this week. Do you agree on that assessment?
I haven't seen any ownership come out yet. I wouldn't be
I haven't either.
surprised, but I'm 100% fading that no matter what.
My chalk radar this year has been hit or miss. There's weeks where I've been good, weeks where I've been bad, as it always is, right? I feel like Nico is bad chalk this week. I just feel like everybody is going to see it and you see what he did last week and just be like, oh, like why can't he? If he did that against Penn State, why can't he do that against Michigan State and just go right back on the Nico train? And I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Like he might make the pool because what if he does end up being the guy you had to have? But I really don't want to play him. And I really think I will feel better about myself if I don't play him. And so the other wild card, I don't know how ownership's going to play out on this, but John Mateer at 6,100. What are your thoughts on him if he is active?
Yeah, I like him if he's active. And so the only issue, and this is probably, you're a little concerned on Weigman, but it's just an upper body thing. But the issue with Mateer is it is his throwing hand.
Correct.
And he's 17 days from, surgery. However, we know with Mateer, he can get there with his legs. And at that type of price, it's just going to be one of those things like you mentioned earlier, as you're kind of going purple for some reason.
Zach, you keep talking for a second. I'm going to figure this camera out. Hold on.
So, sorry. Mateer can get there with his legs only, but the only issue is if it's his throwing hand, and as you mentioned before earlier on the show, we got to watch the news. You don't want to get way too ahead of yourself building lineups on Thursday or Friday whenever there's going to be news coming out. So I'll just keep going as Mike tries to figure that out. It looks like we're back now.
We're back. Yeah. So don't worry. I was listening. Yeah. I don't know. Call me a homer, but I'm a little worried about the Texas defense. I haven't seen a quarterback really have a lot of success against this Texas defense yet. And you can say what you want about Texas is underachieving for their preseason ranking, underachieving for the talent on the roster, but the defense has still been pretty good. And I am worried about that part. And I think if Mateer were 8,100, like we wouldn't even be talking about it. We just wouldn't be playing him.
Yeah.
Would you feel the same way?
Yeah. That's literally the only reason is whenever I saw the report that he was going to play, I looked up the price. But also want to mention Huncho again. He kind of mentioned that could have just been, coach gamemanship that they're trying to get Texas to think that he's playing.
Yeah.
Because why else would you announce it on like Monday?
They did this like 3 years ago with Dillon Gabriel, where Dillon Gabriel was coming off an injury, and like beforehand, it's like, oh, he's playing, and then they get out in after kickoff, and it's Darrell Bevel, and Texas wins like 42-0 or something like that. And it's like, yeah, so much for Dillon Gabriel, right? And Darren brings up a great point. Says if it's Hawkins, I'm not playing Hawkins. We saw him go up against Texas last year, and you can say what you want about Texas this year compared to last year, but he did not look good. He's not an effective thrower of the football. And when Texas was just able to load the box and, just get home with the pass rush, shut the run down, I don't think he's it. And I think if I'm Oklahoma right now, if I'm Oklahoma's NIL fund, I am finding a lot of money somewhere to try to get another quarterback for next year because Hawkins is not the answer.
Yeah, I'm not going to use Hawkins. I don't even know what his price is, but
it's about the same as Mateer. It's like a negligible difference.
But the issue is there's not really a reason to do that whenever you have other options. Like even Nico, I would honestly, even though I want to puke thinking about it, I would play him over Hawkins.
So I will say we both have a cheap quarterback that we like, and I haven't told you mine yet intentionally. Do you know who mine's going to be? Under 7K. That's my only hint.
Under 7K.
Under 7K.
Salter or Chili's. Maybe
it's Salter. I really like Salter. You look back to, we mentioned like all these previous performances, right? Well, Brennan Sorsby just put up 29 against Iowa State. Like we've seen this Iowa State defense give up a lot to mobile quarterbacks. And I really think that Salter could be the next in line. Like, they're now finally giving him the keys to the offense. They're letting him do his thing. They have no running game with the running backs. Their leading rusher is either going to be Salter or it's going to be Draylon Miller. It's not going to be one of the running backs. And so he just has that dual threat upside, going to be in a good game environment. I really like Salter, and I think you're going to get a pretty good ownership discount on it this week. Now, I do know who your core play quarterback is. So, Zach, tell us about your affinity for Aiden Childs this week.
Okay, so if you want to go, you don't have to if you don't want to yet. But if you want to look at the write-up, I put in the put in there that I was all over the quarterback one trying to decide, and I decided that I'm going with Chile's at home because this is a prime letdown spot for UCLA. And also, if you think about it, I've always liked to target the Big Ten teams that are going from the West Coast to the East Coast. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a 9 a.m. What would be West Coast time, 9 a.m. kickoff for UCLA.
9 a.m. body clock. Yeah.
Yeah. And they've been giving up 60 a game rushing to quarterbacks. Even Drew Aller, who we all hate, ran for 78 on them. And it's not like they just have some scrubs at receiver either. They have some decent receivers.
He's been Marsh and the other guy,
Kelly.
crap. Yeah, Kelly.
But he's been over 20 DK in each of the last 3 games till the Nebraska game. And people will see, oh, well, he only threw for 85 yards at Nebraska. Well, he still had 16 DraftKings points because he had 2 rushing touchdowns.
And the Nebraska secondary, for what it's worth, has been really good. They shut down Brendan Sorsby to under 100 pass yards, too. Bryce Underwood didn't do a whole lot against him. Then again, Bryce Underwood's main job is just to hand the ball off. But, the quarterbacks haven't done a lot against Nebraska all year. So I'm willing to forgive that.
Yeah, and so as we've talked about, same deal with Salter. If you get a mobile, dual-threat quarterback, not one that can just run when he needs to like Weigman or Beck, but somebody that will get 10, 15 carries a game, and they're under 7,000, you just fire them up because it's just a no-brainer.
So I don't know if you're watching, but Tulane is literally having like the red zone game from hell. They have 12 points so far. They've kicked 4 field goals. They do not have a touchdown in the red zone, and they just fumbled at the ECU 2.
Wow.
So not good for anybody who played Red Slav or really any of the Tulane guys because they're not scoring touchdowns. So, yeah, I'm sorry. It's just like I'm watching this, and it's like, oh, they finally going to get in, and then they fumble a handoff at the 2-yard line. It's like, wow, they're really snake bit tonight. Yeah, on show, Rhett hit the nail on the head. That was awful. Now, I will say the one guy that was brought up said, how do we feel about Heinzschel? So I think if you're playing GPPs, he's worth a shot. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but I see the vision because he is the type of guy that can come out, put up probably 25, 27 DraftKings points pretty easily at that salary. And that's a pretty good value. And nobody's going to be on him. Like, I get the upside, but true freshman making his second start, going up against Florida State, I don't know. I think that's a pretty tough sell for me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Initially, I saw what he did that first game since taking over for Holstein. I was like, oh, yeah, I want to play that. But when you're talking about a freshman on the road in his first or second start, it's definitely something that you're going to reserve for GPP only because there's just so many guys that seem like safe bets for 20 plus, like all those guys in green. Mm-hmm. Just seem like they're going to be safe guys that are going to get you 20, which is that at least 20 that you need in cash.
100%. And so now I see the question from Darren in the chat said, how hard is it for you to report on ECU? I imagine the way I feel about UTSA and Texas State. So like, Charlotte and ECU do have a little bit of a rivalry. It's a little bit of a new rivalry. The schools don't like each other, but it's not like, I don't know, it's not like one of these hateful rivalries. Like, I feel like there's not a whole lot of genuinely hateful rivalries in college football anymore. I think Georgia and Georgia Tech is one because I have family members on both sides of that. That's one that gets pretty bad. I think Michigan and Ohio State is one. But I don't know, Zach, are there any other rivals that like just like genuinely like you think there's hate between the two teams?
Auburn and Alabama, maybe.
Yeah, that's another, a classic one. I will say and I talked about this on my show, the Texas-Oklahoma rivalry, the time I went in person, was actually quite respectful. I thought it was going to be, a lot more like trash talk and disrespect than it was, but they were the Oklahoma fans are pretty respectful. I walked away from that game hating Texas A&M more than Oklahoma. As a Texas fan, I don't like A&M. A&M is the team I hate.
Okay, so sorry, I was. Darren distracts me with all his questions, so I was reading. So he wants us to name a quarterback we won't play. Each of us.
Name a quarterback we won't play.
Yeah.
Nico.
Yeah. If you want us to pick differently, let me think for a second.
I can come up with another one too. Do you want to take Nico for yours?
No, I'll I think mine. Mine is probably going to be either CJ Carr or Dante Moore, just because.
Two good answers. I'm not playing either of them either.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame won't need to pass. They're just going to, feed both Love and Price, and I mean he could still get there, but
the other one I was going to say was Luke Altmaier.
Yeah,
don't be fooled by the price tag, y'all. This Ohio State defense is for real.
Yeah, I probably would not play Altmaier either. That's usually it's not 100%, but usually it's a good idea that we're not interested if they don't make the pool, because you can't list everybody on the sheet. The one guy that's probably not on there that I still am interested in is Simpson stack with Bernard.
Yeah, Huncho, you're right. I'm not playing Cam Fancher. Whoever the UCF quarterback is, I could talk myself into a game stack with Ja'Cory Brown, but I'm not playing Fancher, that's for sure.
Yeah, I only put him just because Cincinnati, what they gave up to Rocco Becht, and they've been giving up. Now, I would be more interested if it was Jackson or Brown.
Which, quick side point also, to me, it's these Big 12 teams with their injury reports, man, they're annoying. Like the Big 12 is the conference, the big one that has mandated injury reporting, and all these teams are just blatantly ignoring it and not giving accurate information. It's very, very annoying. It wouldn't shock me if any of the guys for UCF ended up starting on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's the deal. Like we've seen the last two nights.
Yeah,
you can't even trust what you see in warmups. Dude, last night,
Missouri State last night.
Yeah, warming up, and he's like, "Oh, he's running with the ones," and he's announced the starter in the stadium, and then literally lock happens, and he's no longer in pads.
And he's in street clothes on the sideline. Like I genuinely wonder, like, do you really think that like there's a coach that went up to him like, "Hey, bud, so you're not playing, but what we want you to do is we want you to put pads on. We want you to go through warm-ups with the starters, and then you're not going to play. So that way they think you're playing, because we're going to get such an advantage from you doing that." Like, are coaches really doing this? Like, I would never. But anyway, I digress. So let's talk running backs now.
Louisiana Tech just got stuffed at the one.
Really?
Give it to Thiebodeau again. They tried to run Bullock, and he got stuffed at the one. Turnover on downs.
Yeah, Thiebodeau is one of my guys tonight, so I really could have used that. I'm kind of glad I wasn't watching that. I would have been tilted.
Yeah, he got vultured by Wiggins on the first drive.
Mm-hmm. Not good for my lineups. All right, so let's switch gears here. Let's talk about running back. So this is a position I do think that you're going to be better off the more information that you have, right? So let's go ahead and mention this, right? So all the situations where there's a running back that's questionable, let's kind of run through it real quick and talk about, what we like if a guy is in, if a guy is out, right? So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up the full slate, so that way we have like a full list here. For DraftKings, there's so much to click on sometimes. Come on, load my running backs, DraftKings. Come on. I didn't click on a game log. Okay, so we already have news that Dylan Edwards is out. Any interest in Joe Jackson?
Well, at first I was thinking, no, I don't want to have anything to do with him because of how he did. You know, he wasn't that great against UCF and Army. But
Hmm.
last week, they actually used him more in the passing game, and he had 5 catches for 41 yards. So if he's going to rack up 7 to 10 catches, I mean, for that price, you can do a lot better. You know, people are going to be chasing Sama if Hanson's out, but he doesn't
Hmm.
catch passes. And so I always want cheap guys who are pass catchers also.
Yeah, I get
So
that.
so I might actually add him right now over let me see, I don't know who I want to take off.
I was gonna say I'd take out Jay Knott, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I'm not playing Knott. So we kind of just mentioned it, but if Carson Hansen is out, does that make Abu Sama like a free square to you? I think it makes him a very good play. I don't think it makes him a free square.
No, he's not a free square to me. Like I said, he doesn't catch passes. He had 18 carries last week, even with Hansen playing. I know he got hurt, but
Hmm.
he only had 12 DraftKings points with 18 carries. So you just, people just are like, oh, he's starting. Well, how many times have we seen LaShawn Williams, Kevin Riley?
Yep.
I mean, you can just keep on listing guys. It just doesn't mean they're automatically going to be the guy to have.
And to pivot off of that as well, how many times in the same situations you just mentioned have we seen a team with a running back out lean on the quarterback more, right? Like when everybody was on LaShawn Williams, who had the big game, Jaylon Daniels, when everybody was on Kevin Riley, who had the big game, Ty Simpson with those receivers, right? Like maybe that's just the move is to play Rocco Becht and some of those receivers.
Oh
Maybe.
no.
I don't know. I definitely think it's a strategy. I'm going to be playing Becht anyway.
Now I'm mad
Now
because
the
I pulled up my to do the same thing you are looking at
Mhm.
the injury report, and now Randy Pittman is on the injury report.
Oh gosh, nothing like one of your core plays being on the injury report the day
Uh,
before a game,
well,
right?
if I'll probably just go over to Deuce Robinson uh,
Yeah.
if he gets out.
Now the other one we don't have him here on the sheet, but Desmond Reed is 5K and he is questionable. Do you have any interest in Desmond Reed if he is active, or Jules Goff if he is inactive?
Definitely not golf or
I
whatever.
agree.
Um, Reed, I would definitely have to consider it. I do think Florida State. I mean, they just give up a big game to Mark Fletcher. I know most of
It
the
wasn't a
passes,
huge
most of the
game,
TDs
but it
were
was,
passes.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess he only had 40. Yeah, they pretty much held Miami to 97 rushing yards.
But so this was one thing that in one of the articles I wrote for Dr. Roto this week, I mentioned about Florida State is Florida State is going to struggle against teams that have balance. Florida State can't seem to scheme to stop both the run and the pass, right? Like you watch the Alabama game and they're able to play two high safeties, quarter coverage because they don't fear the run. And then you watch the game against Miami, and they're like, it's just the complete opposite to where they feel like they have to load the box to stop the run, and they give up these big bombs to Malachi Tony. And the Virginia game, like Virginia is like a tale of two halves to where when Florida State loads the box, Virginia bombs them. And then when Florida State backs up, it's Chandler Morris running at him, right? Like Florida State hasn't seemed to found a balance in terms of a way to stop a balanced attack. And if in this game, if Desmond Reed is active and they come out and say, you know what, we're really going to try to stop the pass, Desmond Reed could torch them. If they come out and say, you know what, we're really going to try to stop the run, Heinz Schuck could probably have a pretty good game on him as well. I'm not a believer in this FSU defense right now.
The only thing with the statement there of Virginia torching them, Jamari Taylor had 27 carries and still didn't get 100 yards. That's a 3.7 yard per carry average.
Morris was pretty good running, though, I will say. Yeah.
He had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But yeah, the main starting running back is just what I'm saying. The main starting running back.
I get it. Yeah.
Because again, Kevin Riley, that was the game that everyone was firing him up, and then he doesn't do anything. So I'll have to throw him in the pool just because the price on Reed
Mhm.
if he plays. But if it's the other guy, I'm out.
I agree completely. I'm not there. I've seen other shows hype up Jules Goff, and I'm like really, really, we're hyping up Jules Goff, and he's not getting the workhorse usage that Reed did. He's not the player Reed was. It's not like this is a cupcake matchup. So I'm out on anybody other than Desmond Reed. I do like Reed if he plays at that price tag, though. I think there's a ton of upside there. But also remember, I'm coming from a GPP perspective. So I think Reed has a ton of upside at 5K. That does not mean that he's like this floor of 17 points or anything like that. All right, so now we talked about the injury situations. Let's go through running back quick because we spent a lot of time talking about quarterbacks, which is okay because that's kind of been our specialty is getting the quarterback position right. Are you interested in any of the high-priced running backs? Because I'm going to be honest, I think there is only one running back above 7K that I'm going to play. Only one.
So for cash, I think because of the value, it's easy to just plug in Love again.
Yep, that was going to be
but
mine.
Yeah, but I can't say that I'm just in love with playing him in GPP because, like we talked about last week, the TDs aren't going to keep happening at the rate that they're happening, and we saw that last week. He only had 16 carries and a touchdown on 100 yards. So decent game, real world wise, but it was only 21 DraftKings points, which is going to hurt you in GPP at 9,000. If at 9,000 you need 30 plus.
If I could make the counter argument, right? So to me, playing Love, you got to think about like your pathway to a victory. And it would be if I play Love, knowing that there's all this value elsewhere on the slate. There's great cheap quarterbacks. There's injuries that have made some cheap running backs. There's some really good cheap wide receivers that we're going to talk about. With value being elsewhere, if you play Love and he ends up returning more fantasy points than the expensive quarterbacks or Jeremiah Smith, and the value pieces hit, that would be your pathway to success. And so to me, that's kind of what I'm looking for in a GPP is I'm going to have some lineups where literally I just swap Love for Jeremiah Smith because I think that there's a case to be made that both of them have slate breaking upside. Both of them have a pathway to carry you to a victory, and whichever one scores more points is going to be the one that you're going to want to have in your lineup. And I know it's weird because they play different positions, but like it's still the same $9,000. And so if Love does end up the best high scoring option, he's going to be a piece that you want so long as those value plays hit. If the value plays don't hit, then it's probably much more of a mid-range day. Do you think that my assessment on that is right?
Yeah, I think so. But I don't think we're going to see a scenario. That's just my opinion. We haven't even talked about receivers, but I don't think we're going to see a scenario where Smith is under 25 points.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on board with that.
I don't really see, but that's just not to get ahead of ourselves. There's two other guys I have slight interest in that are higher up. Ahmad Hardy, just because he's been a machine all year.
Workhorse.
Workhorse, 100 yards a game. And Bama has been run on before. So especially, like I said, I don't have ownership yet. But if he's coming in low owned, I'm definitely going to get some, especially when people are just going to find the $700 and go up to Love because they're like, oh, it's against Bama, so he can't be good. But he's been good every week.
And you can kind of run on Bama. Cedric Alexander got loose last week. So if Ahmad Hardy gets loose, it's going to be the same result. He might get loose twice. So I get it with Ahmad Hardy. I think I would personally rather find the 700 for Love, but I'm thinking long and hard about Hardy. I really am.
Cedric Alexander had 4 carries, 76 yards, and a touchdown.
And I believe he also caught a touchdown too, right?
Yeah, he had a receiving touchdown. The other guy is Dean Connors because for 2 weeks in a row, I've said we got to play the running back against Oklahoma State, and then the quarterback throws for 500 yards and freaking 4 or 5 touchdowns. This, like you said, if they're wanting to be careful with Weigman, this could be the week that they lean on the running back and he just goes off against the Cowboys. The only thing that sucks is his price.
Yes. I do think that DraftKings, which side point, if you're watching this, go join the DraftKings Discord. So that way next Monday, when they let people vote on games, y'all can help me vote on the actual good games to be on a DraftKings slate, because this game was voted on. People, for some reason, voted on Houston, Oklahoma State to be on the slate. I don't know why.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm an Oklahoma State fan, but I don't want to see them on another slate the rest of the year.
I'm very tired of seeing Oklahoma State on a slate because they have no quarterback play. They don't know what receiver they're throwing to. The receivers are basically glorified blockers at this point. And one of them's going to play quarterback this week. So it's just a mess. But anyway, that does it for the high-priced running backs. So we talked about all the injuries, right? So the injuries notwithstanding, so not talking about Jackson, not talking about Sama or Desmond Reed or anybody like that, is there anybody independent of any injury that you like that's of value at running back? Because I do have one nominee.
Yeah, I have a couple actually. But before we get to that, I just want to mention one more guy. I already mentioned it a little bit with the quarterbacks, but Jamal Haynes. I think he's a good price. He's not quite workhorse, but he's going to get 10 to 15 carries, and they use him in the passing game. And he usually, it's either Haynes King goes off or Jamal Haynes goes off.
That's the thing, is like, it's not another running back that steals carries from Haynes. Like, he is the running back one, plays a ton of snaps. The guy that steals carries from him is Haynes King.
Yeah.
Like, when you see Jamal Haynes have like a 9 carry game, it's because Haynes King carried it like 32 times for 140 yards or something.
Yeah. And so the guy that my value is kind of like the same idea that you were talking about, a quarterback that's going to be chalk, but except you were talking about running back. But if Hoover's chalk, getting his running back, Kavorian Barnes, he was out for a couple weeks, and the guys didn't do anything that in the 3-man committee. We just saw Miles Montgomery run for 119 on Kansas State in 10 carries. And Barnes, I think he was a workhorse at, was it UTSA that he was at? Or UTEP? It was one of those schools. And he's healthy now, and so he's going to be back. And so that price is cheap. And there's another guy, but I'm not going to mention because I think he might be one that you're liking, maybe.
Okay, well, I was going to go Mekhi Frazier.
Yeah, that was the other guy that I was
UCLA hasn't stopped the run yet. Like last week, Penn State pretty much had to abandon the run, and they still had 2 touchdowns for Kaytron Allen. So I just think that UCLA, with those troubles, Michigan State, maybe they're not fully trusting Childs, but Mekhi Frazier, workhorse running back, $4,800, good matchup, no complaints.
Yeah, and we'll see in the core too. He was basically RB1 and RB2 was Barnes and Frazier for me, and right. I could see playing both of them in cash, honestly, to help get Smith and the other guys.
So speaking of Jeremiah Smith, so I went back and looked. Do you know what wide receiver ones have done to Illinois in recent weeks?
Absolutely shredded them. We've been talking about it on the show. We've been talking about on DraftKings play the quarterback and our receiver one against Illinois and win money.
Last 3 weeks, so that's USC, Purdue, and Indiana, giving up an average of 31 DraftKings points per game to wide receiver ones. And oh, by the way, none of those wide receiver ones are Jeremiah Smith. So, like, you're giving that up to Michael Jackson and Elijah Surratt. What's going to happen to Jeremiah Smith? Like, seriously. You got the best receiver in college football coming to town now. So this might be the one time, the one time all season where, like, I'm like big time ownership on Jeremiah Smith because the matchup just feels perfect.
Yeah, the same thing. I mean, he's been dominating. He's been, the last several games, 25, 22, 41, 32. I mean, you just don't get that kind of production from receiver. Honestly, no. I think he should probably be above 10,000, but I think it's one of those
Crazy.
situations. It's almost like, to me, he is like the Genty and the Gordon that we had with running back. We don't have that anymore this year, but with him with receiver.
I think that's a pretty good comp because it's just a slate breaking upside with a floor that's seemingly never going to kill you. And now it's the dream matchup. Like, it just seems like a perfect spot for him. So, okay. So that does it for Jeremiah Smith talk, because never get enough Jeremiah Smith talk. Is there any other high-priced receivers, we'll say above 6,500, that gets a lot of interest from you? Because I got to be honest, maybe in stacks, but there's not a whole lot of guys that have a whole lot of interest from me as one-off plays as expensive wide receivers.
I do have a couple. Eric McAllister. Eric McAllister's too cheap. I mean, he's almost 80 DraftKings points over the last 2 games now that he's back. And then also Jace Brown, because as we talked about, I think Kansas State's going to lean on the passing game more. And so
both I like as stacking partners. I will say that both of them I like as stacking partners. I don't think I'm going to get there as a one-off though.
But other than that, going through real quick, the only other maybe Kevin Coleman and Stephon Johnson.
I like Coleman.
For guys above 6,000. That's literally it. Because I'm not going to play Anderson. I'm not going to play Williams from Colorado. I'm not going to play Jolly against Notre Dame. Wingo's been terrible. Gilmer had a good game last week, but we've already talked about fading that UCLA.
And then you have tag with Gilmer too.
Yeah, you have Surratt and Cooper on the road against Oregon, who I think is another legit defense.
Yeah, we got Huncho asking about Surratt. Like, Surratt could always go off. So like, he's a really tough, like, if you're doing an optimizer and like you're clicking your pool, it's really tough to uncheck that box on Surratt because he does have a ton of upside. But I think Oregon's got a legitimately good defense. That game really smells like an under to me. I would be surprised if that game went over, and I believe it's 55.5 right now. I really don't think there's going to be a lot of scoring in that game.
No, and for 500 less, you can get the same kind of volume from McAllister in a much better game environment.
And we also had Huncho had the question. Very good questions y'all are asking in the chat, by the way, guys. It says Tate also. So if you're playing GPPs, Tate's a great GPP play because there's all the guys like us that are just saying, oh, smash Jeremiah Smith. It's the Jeremiah Smith spot. It's the Jeremiah Smith spot, right? And what if Illinois just comes out and says, you know who we're not going to let beat us? Jeremiah Smith. And then you know who's going to beat him? Carnell Tate. So to me, there's a ton of ownership leverage in playing Tate. I don't think I would double stack the two of them. I'll have to go back and do some math about double stacked Ohio State receivers in recent years, but I don't think I would double stack them, but I am going to have Tate in the pool for that reason.
Well, that's what I was fixing to say, the opposite. I don't mind double stacking.
Okay.
Because Tate had 36 last week. He had 25 against Ohio, 18 against Grambling. I mean, he only had one game below 13. So he scored a touchdown in all but that game that he got 7 against Washington. So I think if you're stacking and you're putting Sayin in there, you could stack them both together at least once.
You know what? I'm getting talked into it. Because when you look at, I'm playing around on DraftKings right now. I don't know why my DraftKings in my browser right now is being super slow. But when you click the three of them together, your average remaining is 5,380. And with all the value on the slate, all the cheap quarterbacks on the slate, you can really get comfortable with that. And just kind of experimenting, clicking around, that's not enough to feel uncomfortable by playing that double stack. So I actually don't think that's a bad idea. And then Darren also had the question, says, can you play Hank Beatty opposite Smith? I like that idea as well. Hank Beatty is turning into the new Pat Bryant in this Illinois offense, seeing a ton of volume. And if Illinois goes down, you're going to see a lot of volume. And, the Indiana game, I don't have the box score in front of me, but I feel like Beatty had a pretty good game against Indiana when they got demolished. And so even if the game does turn into a blowout, I think you could still see a pretty good outcome for Hank Beatty.
That was actually his worst game. He
Oh, it
only had
was?
3. Yeah, he had 2 catches for 13 yards. They
Well,
completely
golly,
shut
who
him
was
down.
there? Okay, there was a receiver in that game that did well though. Was it Dixon?
Yeah, that was the game and then the next week everybody was on Dixon, and then he was just absolute terrible.
That was the game Beatty left early. It was the Indiana game.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
remember this now. I remember it distinctly because he was questionable the whole next week and nobody wanted to play him, and he bounced back.
Yeah, I mean, he's only scored 2 touchdowns, but he averages 21 DraftKings points. And other than that game that he's been hurt, he hasn't been below 17. So at
Volume
that
king.
price, yeah, it's you got to love it, especially if nobody's going to play him because it's Ohio State.
Correct. So now let's kind of wrap this up here with the cheapy wide receivers, of which I think there's a lot this week, right? I'm going to have a ton of these cheapy receivers in my pool because, quite frankly, you got to make room for Jeremiah Smith, right? Like if you're going to be playing Jeremiah Smith, you're going to have to find some value somewhere. And so let's talk about all the cheapies. Is there one stands out above the rest to you? I think I know where you're going with this one because we've talked about him.
Yeah, there was until I got the notification. All of a sudden, he's questionable.
It's only a Q tag.
Because Randy Pittman, they love using the tight end, and he's boosted up his routes. It was double from the and lots of volume. Getting peppered, him and Deuce Robinson. So as long as he's playing, I'm going to have a whole lot of him at that price. He scored a touchdown in back-to-back games as well.
I can get behind that, and honestly, I can get behind Robinson as well. Tommy Castellanos, the passing game for this offense, pretty much is just looking for Robinson and Pittman. And in the red zone, it's even more condensed. He's really only just looking for those two guys in the red zone. And so you're getting a lot of touchdown equity and not a high price tag in a pretty good game environment. I like both Pittman and Deuce Robinson on the FSU side. Now, the one guy that I really like, I got to find him. Chase Sowell. So I don't know how much of the Cincinnati Iowa State game last week. Did you watch that whole game?
Yeah, pretty much.
So you'll probably remember this play then, but Sowell, he left the game for like a series or two, right? And then he came back and he scored a touchdown late in the game, but in the middle of the game, he had like a DB burnt on a post route and the DB just grabs him. And it would have been an easy touchdown if the DB hadn't interfered. And so, like, all of a sudden, like, you're looking at Sowell. I think it's Sowell. Sowell could have had, like, over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game had he not been interfered with. And, boy, if he had done that, everybody would have on him this week. I think you're starting to see a breakout of a guy that a lot of us thought in the preseason was going to break out for this team. And I think he's a great look as a part of this Iowa State offense now.
Yeah, I like Sowell too, or Soul.
I like Soul.
Like so many guys. I mean, just looking at that list, you have Kenny Johnson up there, 4,500. His first game back, he had like 9 targets or 9 catches. Omari Kelly, if you want to stack with Chili's. And then Sam Jackson. Let's go ahead and talk about him.
Okay, let's talk about Sam Jackson here.
Last week we talked about the possibility that he might play some quarterback, but that was with Flores playing. Now Flores is hurt. The only other quarterback on the roster is Banks Bowen, who's a coach on the team's kid, a walk-on. And so they're literally trying to decide who's going to start. And so my interest on Jackson, though, it depends on if he starts at quarterback because of the value you're going to get at receiver with a quarterback. Guy playing quarterback. If he doesn't start and it is Bowen, I'm out because
agree.
You can't trust the volume. He doesn't get looks in the passing game, which is really odd to me. You like him enough to run him, to use him at quarterback, but you don't want to throw to him when he's playing receiver.
Yeah, it's very high schooly. Like their usage of him is like, oh, he's a real good athlete. We're just going to put him at quarterback. But yet at the same time, they don't want to use him as that real good athlete out at wide receiver. It puzzles me. But, kind of like, do you remember Terrell Pryor back in the day in the NFL?
Yeah.
where Terrell Pryor had like this one season where he was like this great wide receiver, but then all of a sudden like he was back to playing quarterback and like never heard from again. It was a weird path for Terrell Pryor. It kind of feels like that to me. But if we do get news that Sam Jackson is starting, y'all, I don't care what you think of him, like how good, bad he is, how good, bad his team is. You get a starting quarterback at $3,000 and he's a really good athlete and has rushing upside. You got to get him in your player pool. You got to.
Yeah, because then you're playing 3 quarterbacks, and a lot of people won't be thinking about him. And so we just got to stay to the news. I just tried to look real quick to see. I haven't seen any from Oklahoma State guys.
Mm-hmm.
But if it is Banks Bowen, I would say just steer clear of the whole Oklahoma State offense.
Yeah, I agree. And Darren in the chat says, if defensive coordinators know about him playing, they have time to scheme him up, and he plays like Uncle Rico. Yeah, his throwing motion is not pretty. Like it is not it's not like a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady throwing motion where, it's just kind of this graceful release. It's a full wind up and kind of chuck. But if he ends up starting,
yeah,
it doesn't have to be pretty to complete him.
Yeah, at 3,000, you only need 9 points, Darren, for 3x and 12 points. That's not a good quarterback performance. 12 points isn't, but that's 4x and it's playing at receiver. If he was at quarterback and it was 4,500, yeah, don't play him. That's the difference here.
The fact that you can get a third starting quarterback.
Yeah, a third starting quarterback. It doesn't matter because he could just if they could get to the goal line, because it's not like it's last week they were playing a better team with Arizona, and it was on the road. Houston at home, he could get a rushing touchdown or 2. It just depends on if he's starting or not.
Yeah. And other last question from Darren here says, how is Oregon ranked so high and I have no interest in their players? Hey, I'm about the same way. They play the committee of all committees at running back.
It's just so many guys.
Yeah, and DeCorian Moore is a pretty good wide receiver 1, but he's going to be shadowed by D'Angelo Pons in this game. I think that Indiana defense is legit, y'all. Like, I was so impressed from what I saw from them in the Illinois game, and I think that's probably selling me on not playing a whole lot of this game. I do like DeCorian Moore as a player, but probably not in this game. Like, I'm definitely going to get me some DeCorian Moore down the road. I have him in best ball. It's looking like a pretty good best ball pick from where I got him at. But, not this week.
Yeah, the only interest maybe would be like Noah Whittington for me. Just so? Because I think he gets more volume here in this one.
I could see it.
But again, we talked about that. There's a lot of other running backs. You got Barnes and you got Frazier right there, Joe Jackson, Tyree Walker, Evan Pryor. We didn't talk about them, but those guys too. So there's really not a reason to go there. It's just an option.
This sounds really badly, but like if Pryor or Walker, like if one of them were to get hurt and it would just be that one guy, I would play the crap out of that one Cincinnati running back. Like if you could just play Cincinnati RB for $7,500, I would do it, because those two guys, you just never know which one it's going to be. It's close to 50-50. It's really tough. All right, so let's close this thing out now. I think we talked about pretty much everybody we wanted to talk about, except for I know there's one guy we missed, but I know you're about to talk about him now. So we've talked about Pittman. We've talked about Kavorian Barnes. Zach, go ahead.
Sorry. There's just another guy that's cheap.
Another receiver?
Yeah, Amari Thomas from Houston.
Okay.
Because he's actually second on the team in targets with 27 targets. Mainly from the last 2 games against Oregon State and Texas Tech. The only thing that kind of worries me is Houston does spread it out.
Mm-hmm.
They have Johnson. They have some other guys. Koziel also. But he's another guy that's getting popular, so I just wanted to mention that. And then also Satanga from OU.
I don't mind that either.
If you look at what he's done, he's been absolutely wrecking the last couple games.
He's in the slot too, which is the position you want to be in the Arbuckle offense.
Yeah, he's 24, 30, and 17 DraftKings points over the last 3 games.
Do you think he needs Mateer, though? Because I kind of do.
Well, I mean, he had 30. Was that the game that Mateer got hurt against Auburn?
Mateer played the Auburn game.
Yeah. He scored 2 touchdowns last week against Kent State.
Kent State, though.
Yeah, that's
Texas's defense ain't Kent State. Put it this way: Mateer's in. I think Satania is a good play. If Michael Hawkins is their quarterback, I'm not touching Illinois. Like Oklahoma. Why did I want to call them Illinois? If Michael Hawkins is their quarterback, I'm not touching Illinois. Bottom line. All right. I believe we got the receivers covered now, right?
Yeah.
Because the last guy we're going to hit up, because this guy's a core play for both of us. So I'll let you talk him up, though. We got Jeremy Bernard at $5,900. Why does Bernard make your core, Zach? Because he's going to make my core, too.
Well, so a couple of things I look at, obviously when I'm looking for core, especially for cash, is volume, floor, and price. And when you look at all those things, he's $1,000 less than he was last week when he scored a touchdown. Yeah. And he's $1,300 less than his highest price. He averages 21 DraftKings points a game. And even against Bama when he didn't score or against Florida State when he didn't score a touchdown, he had 26 DraftKings points. It's just a super safe floor, and the price is not going to break the bank. And so that's part of the reason why, we're looking at we didn't really talk a lot about receiver because me and you are just so high on Bernard and Pittman and then probably Robinson or Pittman and Smith for the 3 receivers. Like you're already locked in right there.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel receiver on this slate. You really don't.
There's no way I'm going to overthink that. And, and like you mentioned, people are going to get on to streams and they're going to say, play Ryan Williams because and nobody's going to be on him. Everybody's going to be playing Bernard. But like you mentioned, it's basically like Bernard is the number 1 guy there now.
Mm-hmm. He's the most targeted receiver on the team. And you kind of look at how they've been running their offense. Like Ryan Williams has been very feast or famine. Bernard has been the consistent, steady option. The Ryan Grubb offense, they love hitting these like intermediate crossing routes, and that's Bernard's jam, man. Like that's what he does well. And I just think he's a great fit at a great price tag in a great matchup. So I'm going to be on Bernard too with you. All right. I believe that pretty much covers it. Yeah, we're at about an hour and 15. So, yeah, we did pretty good. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like we already mentioned, as we get every year, we get late into the season like this, there's so many injury reports that come out. So don't set your – like it's good to have – I do this. I have a dummy cash line I make on Friday night. But don't get set on anything on Friday. Because we could come out Saturday and Pittman could be out, Hansen could be out, who else? Some of these other guys. We could have like the whole slate blown up in 30 minutes. So just don't get too, I don't ever like to build too early. It's good to have a good gut lineup, but don't go crazy early. You just gotta be in the chat for the news. If you can't be in the chat, look at Twitter, try to get the news there. It's just the biggest edge in college football DraftKings is, checking news and making sure you don't have a guy that's 30% owned that is not playing because you didn't see the tweet 5 minutes before the game. Yeah,
and especially if you get caught. Sometimes you can't even help it, like with the Missouri State guy the other night. But yeah, for the most part, if you're willing to grind on Twitter or if you have a community like a Discord where there's a lot of people that are looking stuff up, crowdsourcing it, and you're hip on the news, yeah, you're going to have an advantage over most of the
field. And I think if we talked about that before, the afternoon slate and like the late night, and those people don't check the news nearly as much as they do.
No, not at all.
So you can really have an edge on those if you're paying attention.
All right. So week 7 main slate. Let's have a good one. Now, before you guys leave, we're going to get close to wrapping it up here, and I do see a chat. We're going to talk about this. So, before you guys leave, make sure you hit that like button for us. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That way you can be with us for all these live shows the rest of the season, as well as all of our content coming throughout the year. And then, oh, by the way, the link to that Discord we were just talking about is in the description as well, if you want to join that community, and kind of be more hip on the news, right? So Darren says, before you leave, we need our weekly high school and flag football updates. So Zach, I know we're back on Thursday night this week because you got a game to coach tomorrow night. So what's going on tomorrow night?
Yeah, tomorrow after our bye week, we start district play. So, our record's 1-4, but it doesn't matter now because only thing that matters is your district record to make the playoffs.
Second season. Yeah.
Yep. And the top 4 make the playoffs. So basically we only need 2 wins because we only have 6 teams in the district. So getting a win the first game would be huge. We got some guys, coming back that were missing because of injury. But then we also got some other guys that might be out. So the offense is an issue. It's just some of these guys need to contain the quarterback. They got a good quarterback. He's actually a commit for Texas at shortstop.
Oh, wow.
Caleb Ramirez. He committed as a sophomore. And so he's a good two-sport. He's been starting as a freshman since he's a freshman at quarterback, and also a shortstop and pitcher for them. So it'll be a tough game, but I think we can pull it out, hopefully.
Yeah. So, and then my side of things, it was mentioned last week how I had to make my cuts, right? Going from 55 to 25 for the girls flag football team. And let's just say I'm not exactly a popular guy around the high school this week. A lot of girls that are not happy they didn't make the team, but I only got 25 spots. I got to keep the best 25 so I can win. And this week was not without drama either, because basically on Tuesday, I had to fill out this form that indicated our interest to be in the state playoffs, because last year there was not a state playoffs. It was just a county playoffs. And there's another county that's running it, right? And they said, hey, in our playoffs, we're playing by this rule set, which was not what we played by last year. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's different. And so I reach out to our AD. I'm like, hey, have you heard about anybody playing by a different rule set? And he's like, no, let me double check that for you. And then sure enough, in the thing that our county sent out, we are playing by an entirely different rule set this year. So I had to basically scrap most of my offense. And we play our first game Monday. So I have had to retool the offense. So basically what I'm doing now, the biggest change was previously the pass rusher had to start 7 yards off the ball. So QBs had a decent amount of time before the rusher got there, right? The caveat was that the quarterback could not run. That's a fair trade-off, right? So we really had a really good quick passing game because we just had time where the quarterback could sit. By the time the rusher got there, they could diagnose. We would throw mesh, we would throw flood. We're throwing real football concepts at them. We're not running a flag football playbook. We're running my actual high school playbook when I used to coach, just a 7-on-7 version. And so now the rusher can start right up next to the line of scrimmage. But the trade-off is that the quarterback can run. And so we're practicing today, and the rusher's just back there immediately, right? You don't have time to do anything with the rusher right there. So what I put in today, we didn't have enough time to just hand off the ball to a running back before the rusher was in the backfield. And so our primary run play right now, and you might think I'm a crazy person, our primary run play right now is going to be speed option. Because the quarterback's allowed to run, so the quarterback can take the snap, and if the rusher's back there, whoop, quick flip to the running back, and then we're out in space, right? Because I do have some really fast girls that if we get out in space, we're going to be all right. And so today, my job at practice was I was teaching a bunch of girls how to option pitch who have never option pitched before in their life. but we were doing it. We were making it work, and I found a few girls who can do it, and that's going to be our main run play now is speed option. And we're still going to work in the quick passing game. We're still going to work in jet sweeps like Darren mentions. And so, we're kind of figuring out how to deal with the fact that, this pass rush is just going to interrupt what we normally would have done. So I've really had to get creative this year, and the season hasn't even started yet. Fun times. But yeah, that's gonna. So next Friday I'll have an update for y'all because we were supposed to scrimmage somebody on Saturday. If there's anybody watching that's in the state of North Carolina, y'all know how big a deal this is. But North Carolina A&T is having their homecoming on Saturday, and so basically, like the entire city of Greensboro shuts down. There's parades, there's parties, there's concerts. It's a huge deal. They call it the greatest homecoming on earth. And so the team we were playing is yeah, we're in Greensboro. All our girls are going to the A&T homecoming. We don't have enough girls to play. So I'm currently trying to find another team that's not from Greensboro to scrimmage so that we can see somebody else with this rule set and see if what we're doing is working before Monday's game. So it's been a crazy week. Yeah. Anyway, if you can't tell, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. And so tomorrow, the good news is that, I mentioned before that I am a teacher and I do have a optional teacher workday tomorrow. I'm taking the option not to go. So I'm going to be able to get a lot done, be productive, do some research, write some articles, fill out the core. I'm going to be able to get a lot done tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah,
that sounds great. But for us, we got fall break coming up Monday, Tuesday. So that'll be nice.
Ooh, I love a good fall break. I wish our school system would do it more often. We did it one year. It was the best, and we never went back to it. Because when you have a good idea, you got to not do it, right? That's how school systems work. Anyway, I think that's going to do it, guys. Darren, your squad does have a huge game tomorrow night. Huge game. College football playoff implications. I will be watching. I will be rooting for North Texas because of you, Darren. Don't forget that. But anyway, that's going to do it here for us, guys. Zach, as always, thank you for joining me.
Yep, thank you for having me again.
Yep, hopefully we put together a quality show for you guys, help you guys solve this Week 7 main slate. Best of luck to you guys on the Week 7 main slate. We'll be back same time, same place next week to talk Week 8. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next time.